The civil service, the public service is about 1.2 million.
That includes the police force?
Yes, I include the police and the military.
Now, the issue about the fact that there have been some people saying that it is such a big civil service in terms of the number of people, and the fact that racially, there's a high proportion of civil services compared to our population, compared to some of the countries in Asia. Why is that?
What do you mean, the number?
The number, like per capita, no? It's a very big civil service.
I almost memorized the answer now.
Oh, you asked the question very quick.
Did you ask me that question earlier?
No.
No, you didn't. You see, a large proportion of that are in the education side. I think more than half a million is in the education side, both higher education and the normal education, mostly in the bawah Kementerian Pelajaran. I think the reason for that is because we have many school-going children, and yet our class size is pretty big as well. My son, who is in Form 5, his class is like 43 in the class, which is quite big in the class. Teachers could not really concentrate on the students. Ideally, it should be much smaller. In developed countries, the number is much smaller. When I was posted to Washington, D.C., for example, my daughter, when she entered her class in October, because the session started in September, she was the last addition to the class. She was student number 13. So is that. Maybe we will not be able to go to that class size. But maybe 25, 30 is a better number than 40 over.
You don't think the civil service is too big?
That's the point I'm making, because half of them are in the education side, and yet our classes are already big. So if parents think that the classes are too big and they want to reduce, then they have to have, number one, of course, the schools have to have more classes. But having more classes alone is not good enough. You have to have the teachers. So if you reduce the number of students in the class, you have to increase the number of teachers to teach. So that is a contribution why our civil service is large, more than half a million.
The Ministry of Education.
All right. Then you also have the police and the military. Well, 200 over 1,000. And we say there's no police around. There's no police present. There's no security. You feel not safe. And if you increase the number of police, then you have the same one. Then you go to public hospitals and you say you're not taken care of. But there are close to 200,000 people in the medical side. So you add in all there 500 over 1,000, 200 over 1,000, that's 700 over 1,000. You add 200 over 1,000, that's a remainder about 300,000. That argument is right, and it applies to any sector of the economy, be it in the public service, be it in the private sector, or be it at home. I don't have a maid at home. Somehow my wife does not believe in having a maid. But I have two children who are still with us at home. And sometimes my wife says she can do with more help from the children. Meaning to say that not only the teachers can work harder, smarter, not only the civil servants, the clerks can work harder. But also in the private sector, people like you, for example, why do you need to have 4 people, 4 in 1, for example, coming here? Maybe you can double up. At the same time, in my house, you can do with more help. That argument is there. But as far as the public service is concerned, we have been trying to work much smarter, as you said. We want to do that. And I, for one, have been pushing for that. And that's how our country can be competitive. Not only the public sector has to work smarter, the private sector must also do that. And at home, they must do that. So it applies to everyone.
Have you got any successes so far in forcing the civil servants to be a little bit more productive?
I believe so, and it starts from my office. You are working right now, and my colleagues in my office, and then they were following me to those meetings. Generally, I think we have tried to improve. Granted, we can do much better. As much, for example, our country can do much better. Our country means only the public sector, but also the private sector can do much better.
There is also the argument that the reason why the civil service is bloated is also partly because of the fact that it is being used as a way to include a lot of the graduates who find hard to find employment elsewhere. That the civil service is there as a last resort for them to be absorbed. Is that truth to that argument?
During certain times, yes. When the economy is bad, when they cannot get employment elsewhere, and it's important that that people get employment, because even in developed countries right now, for example, where we are experiencing economic difficulties in the world, other countries are doing that, including developed countries. Therefore, in the context of where business, private sector are not absorbing as many, in fact, some of them are discharging a number of their long-time employees, someone needs to take it out. So just like the central bank is a bank of last resort, a lender of last resort, the government perhaps is a last resort for people to get employment, because if they don't get employment, they become a social problem. Of course, you may say, why did they all go to university? I mean, you were to go to university, you need a job, where do you go?
Yeah, the PM recently appointed YangAkuSegala to the Minister on KPIs.
Yes.
So in the civil service, do you see a possibility of bringing senior people from the private sector into the ministries?
We have been doing that. The Prime Minister also announced in April, when he met the public officials at MAPA 10, 29 of April, and again on the 27th of July, he mentioned about that. There's a exchange of officials, our officials, and 20 of them going into the private sector, particularly GLC, and about the same number of people coming from GLC into the government. That is one of the programs. This will allow the cross-fertilization of ideas and best practices, perhaps from the GLC and from the private sector. For our people, they can learn there what are the best practices, and for the good people, hopefully after 1 year, 2 years in the government, they think that this is a place for them to be, and they continue in the job. We have done that.
So it's already been commenced?
It already started on the 1st of September.